Hi, everybody. I just wanted to send a follow-up to last week. First, I want to say that I'm coming off of a really wonderful evening last night. My San Diego State University's choirs had their performance yesterday, and my choir and the two other choirs just were so wonderful. It is a really great time to be here at San Diego State. We're starting a master's in a couple of years, and master's in music ed, and yeah, I'm just really thrilled to be a part of this community that champions diversity and looks to amplify these voices and has empowered me to share these stories as well. So thank you. I'm so happy to be a part of San Diego State. So I want to start with that, all positive things. Next positive thing that I want to share too is another thank you to everyone, like just countless humans that have reached out to me and just shared their words with me over the last week of words of encouragement, words of validation, words of resonate with each other, and also thank you to so many people who have trusted me with their stories too. It's a two-sided coin, I guess. And on one side of the coin, I'm really grateful that we were able to resonate in that way, and that my story really spoke to you. That makes me so happy. But on the other side of the coin, I'm also really devastated that there are so many humans that are experiencing similar things to what I did while I was in the choral area at FSU. So with that too, I say this video, or I'm recording this video, one, to tell you that it's not going to be nearly as long as the first one. Two, because I have 2 points to make. So point number one that I'd like to make is as a response to the one negative response that I've received. So like I said, I've received countless of positive responses, but I have received one negative response. And I wonder also, just because the video has gained so much traction, that there may be other people that feel this way too. And I just want to address this. So this negative response that I received was from a person that I knew while I was at FSU. They were not in the choral area, I just want to make that clear. They were a white person, maybe interacted with them, I would say maybe less than 10 times in my life. Like, it's very minimal. I barely know this person. I wouldn't even call them a colleague. So they reached out, started their message with, hope you're well, and that small talk stuff that we all do. And immediately went into saying that my video was perceived, or they perceived my video as me being a grumpy former student that was just kind of like airing their grievances. And I want to caution you, I guess, and I want to caution and encourage you to reevaluate if that's the way that you saw me too. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people of color are often siphoned into different negative adjectives, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, or stereotypes, I should say, is maybe the better word. For example, I know you've heard the narrative of the angry black woman. I know you've heard the narrative of the aggressive black man or the unapproachable brown man, and the list goes on. Unapproachable, aggressive are all things that I have been called in my life. And grumpy is another one that I feel like falls within that. To me, that was a racial microaggression. I am sharing my experience with you all, and this one response is trying to invalidate that experience. They are saying that I should have taken the proper channels to share my story. But when I took those proper channels, when I filed the Title IX, when I went to the higher ups, nothing happened. I mean, I suppose the best thing that did happen was that the dean let me not be in this person's choirs my last year, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm not saying that I'm not grateful for that. I'm so excited that opportunity was given to me, but the reality is that the system is still being perpetuated. This person has and is saying things that are inappropriate, and that's just not okay. So when I took those proper channels, nothing came out of that. And I know so many others who have taken the proper channels that have not had a chance to have justice be served or have their voices be heard. So I feel that all of that, this negative response that I received, was a racial microaggression. And I'll talk about that in just a second too. But I just really want to encourage you that if you saw me that way, that is just to be careful with that. Just to not siphon me into these stereotypes of all these people of color that we so often are siphoned into. I want to share with you that in this video, in the description, I'm going to also include my dissertation, so that you can have a chance to read through what I wrote the majority of last year, My study was on the racial experiences of BIPOC choral professors at predominantly white institutions. So I interviewed a couple of colleagues and people that I met through this process, and just they shared their story with me, and it was really illuminating to see that my experience is not unique. Like I mentioned in the last video, that a lot of these humans have very similar experiences to me. So it's a long document. I don't expect you to read the whole thing. Of course you can if you want to. Chapter 1, just to give you a breakdown, if you want to just read like a short snippet of it. Chapter 1, I provide the background as to why I did this study, and that also goes into like my own experiences and why that led me to do what I did in that study. That's chapter 1. And I would encourage you to read that. I would encourage you to read chapter 4 as well. Chapter 4 is my results, or everything that I learned from my participants, I included in that chapter. So things like quotes, things that they experienced, all of the things that I discovered are included in chapter 4. So you can read chapter 1 for background, chapter 4 for getting into the nitty-gritty of the document, and then chapter 5 discusses the results from chapter 4. And I also provide implications on how we can make the space better for all. So I would encourage you to read that. If you want to get even further into racial microaggressions, what I was just talking about, and how people of color experience that all the time, you can read chapter 2. That's a doozy. That's a very big chapter. So do it that way if you will, but it's available for you to read in the description if you would like. So all that to say, point 1 is that you should be angry. If you should feel uncomfortable. One of my mentors at FSU, the director of undergraduate studies, often says in class that we learn in a state of uncomfortability. And I agree with that sentiment, that this is uncomfortable. These conversations are hard. And I welcome these conversations if you want to reach out and talk to me about these things. But I do not welcome being invalidated for my experiences. And I do not welcome unsolicited advice from white people that are looking out for me, because that is a sentiment that is often told to us, but the heart is not in the right place. When they're looking out for me, they are trying to silence me, or they're trying to invalidate my experiences. So I just caution you in the way that you approach those conversations with people of color. So again, you should be angry at this situation, but if you're angry at me, I think that's incorrectly directed. So I just encourage you to reevaluate that. Point number 2 that I want to make, that I also touched on my last video, was this idea of 2 things being able to exist at once. So what I mean by that is that if you went to Florida State and had a really, really great experience with this person, that's awesome. I really love that for you. But that does not mean, just because you had a great experience with him, does not mean that I did not experience what I experienced. 2 things can exist at once. He can be wonderful to you. He can write you the best letter of recommendation, get you the best job, but he could also be gatekeeping jobs for me. He could also be calling me, saying that I'm too hard to work with, saying all of these terrible things about me, about not getting tenure, about not being trusted, all etc. Those 2 things can exist at the same time. Just to give you a grand example, and I apologize for involving politics in this, but I think that this can really hit close home to many people. So if you consider a president-elect, some people see him as the most vile human, rapist, racist, all of the ists that are negative. But on the other hand, some people see him as the beacon of family values. Some people see him as the person that is going to lead us, this country, in the right place. So 2 things can exist at one time, again, in that situation and in this situation as well. So I just really encourage you also that if you had one of those experiences that was really positive, to hold on to that. That's great. You made great memories, and that's amazing. But the reality is that 2 things can exist at once, and I did not have those similar experiences, and he was a terrorist to me. And I say that word seriously, that my time at FSU was filled with emotional terrorism. And I have been processing that trauma for the better half of 2 years. So in that, I want to validate your experience that was positive, but I also want my experience that was not positive to be validated too. And that's why things like critical race theory are so important, because so often the people that have good experiences are the white people. and their stories are amplified. But then us, people of color, marginalized communities, when we speak up of these, we're asked to go through the proper channels or to maybe watch the way that we're saying things because we might not get tenure or whatever. Just like dangling these life things, like these like tenure, job. Why are you holding that against us, to silence us, to make us subordinate? Like that's just not okay. So to summarize, 2 points. Number one, be careful with racial microaggressions and siphoning people of color into these aggressive adjectives and aggressive stereotypes. Point number 2 is the idea that 2 things can exist at once. And I just encourage you to just remember that. And I also am trying to remember that also in this situation, knowing that that this person means so much to a lot of people, and I get that. But the reality is that there needs to be accountability in place because this has gone on for too long, not just in the choral area at FSU, but all over. And you can see in this description that I have also included different snapshots of people's stories that they have shared with me over the last week. These people have reached out and said, hey, thank you so much for sharing your video. I resonated with this, and then shared their experience. I have in turn asked them for their permission to share this video, their responses. I have made sure that they have remained anonymous. So I have taken out any sort of defining clue that points back to who they could be, because they are also afraid, and they're afraid to share their stories, and that's hard, that's scary. Like why are we being pushed to fear of sharing these experiences when they're happening all over the place? So I guess I also want to share those responses with you all so that you can see that my experience is not unique, like I mentioned, and that sucks, and I'm sad that that's the case, but I think it's important to speak up, because otherwise, if we just stay and not speak up about these situations, we're just going to remain complacent and the problem will be perpetuated. So yeah, I encourage you to just read through the responses that I included, and just be open-minded to the idea of uncomfortability, because we learn in a state of uncomfortability, and I want to learn and get better, and we can make this a better space, and I hope that you want to make that happen with me too. So I thank you for watching this video again, and I welcome continuous I guess I welcome a desire to move forward and to make this space better. So please reach out if you want to talk, or if you want to have a person to resonate with or to empathize with. I see you, and I want to make this space better for you. So thank you so much for listening again, and I hope you all have a great day, and good luck with your finals and all as your semesters come to an end. Thanks, y'all.